Go blue, everybody. Welcome back. Could JJ McCarthy go top 5 in the NFL draft? And much more coming up next on Michigan Wolverines Live. And we are back for another episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. It's Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. My name is John Diadamo. You can find me on Twix at John Diadamo. Pretty easy. I host this show as well as the Ocho on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you can really just find me. Just circle 8 p.m. Monday, Tuesday nights. You're good to go. This is our 135th show. It's pretty crazy. I was in chat for the first show. Or at least one of the first. So it's crazy to kind of have this go full circle here. So I do want to remind everybody two things. Please hit the like button when you come in. Subscribe to Michigan Football, the voice of college football, and share, not just with a friend, share with everybody. Take the YouTube link, put it on your Discord chats, put it on Reddit, put it on Facebook, wherever. Share it with friends. Let people know that we're live. Anybody who loves Michigan football, loves Wolverines, will probably appreciate the content tonight. So go ahead and send that out. And then, of course, if you have a comment or question, we've got some good content for you today. So may not be able to get to a lot of comments unless you send a super chat. Even if it's just $1.99, whatever, we'll read your question or comment on air and kind of give our take on what you want to ask us. So with all that said, it's time to bring on our guest as we have for a couple weeks now. TJ Konarski's back from Ronin Sports Talk. Hey, TJ.
Hey, John. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back. Go blue and lots going on, right?
Yeah, a lot going on. We got some NIL. We got the Combine this week, which should be very exciting for us Wolverine fans. We can rub it into Ohio State and let them know who the supreme university really is.
Yeah, congratulations on your off-season national championship. Now here's 18, players that are headed to the Combine. So there you go, Ohio State. And so why don't we kind of get started with this? So, recruiting kind of is ramping up, and we've actually heard, one of the big question marks when the entire defensive staff got replaced. One of the question marks was, how is recruiting going to be impacted? And what we've seen is that recruits actually, some of them really like the new coaching hires. One in particular, Jalen Williams, defensive lineman, said that's definitely big for Michigan. So very, very exciting about the Greg Scruggs hire. And he's a 4-star lineman, so that's the type of player we're going to need to continue to compete at a high level going into 25 and 26. I'd love to just kind of get your take on, I guess, first, just general what you're seeing from some of these recruits before we dive into kind of NIL and that. So have you been kind of seeing some positivity in terms of the new defensive staff, the new Sharon Moore on down? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so there has been positive feedback, right? The one unfortunate hurdle at the moment is because the defensive staff hasn't been officially announced, they can't recruit. So at the moment, Sam Popper is handling all of the defensive recruits right now in terms of just kind of letting them know that we want to get them on visits and things of that nature. So that's unfortunate, but there is still a lot of enthusiasm. I think you're right with Williams. The Greg Scruggs hire was huge because if you remember when Elston got fired, he put out a tweet saying you might want to change that crystal ball. And
Right.
But he loves Greg Scruggs. Like, he loved him at Wisconsin. So he was kind of leaning that way anyways. So the fact that we have him now reopens that door and puts us in a great position for a player like him. And then you got guys like Alex Graham, who I think you could see make a commitment sooner than later. I'm not putting any crystal balls out there or anything like that. I'm just simply saying he's very he's close to a decision, right? He's been close to a decision, but I think you could see something sooner than later on that. Which is why the visits next month are going to be huge. You know, if they can get these guys on campus and they can announce these hires hopefully this week, because it's been what, 3 weeks, right? Welcome back. Yep, good to see you. You know, it's been 3 weeks since these coaches have been announced, which I understand. I understand the delay because of, you know, past incidences, but I do think it's a bit of overkill in not announcing these coaches sooner, because we're at a disadvantage, John. I mean, if you think about it,
right?
We haven't even started recruiting to full capacity, and it's March. You know, so we really got to kick into high gear. There is some optimism on that, though. I do have some interesting news we're going to talk about later, but
yeah,
you know, I think in March we are going to see things really pick up, though.
Well, you know, since you brought it up, let's chat. So we talked last week about some of the moves that Sharon Moore has been making on the NIL front that have been announced, right? And a lot of people liked that video, and a lot of people saw it, and you know, so clearly some optimism from the community about what Sharon Moore's been doing. Would love to just hear kind of your take on any updates you might have heard about.
Yeah, so I've received some interesting information on that.
Yeah.
So I've gotten information from some people close to the collectives, and there is a lot of encouragement and a lot of excitement in that circle from the approach that Sharon has brought to the collectives. Is a complete 180 from Harbaugh, and it's not that Harbaugh wasn't interested in bringing collectives into this, because he was, if you remember last summer, promoting Empower and trying to get a team-based salary along with some other
I
benefits.
remember we covered it.
Right. So he was, you know, he was definitely trying to do that. But
yeah,
from what I'm hearing, Sharon's a bit more hands-on, where Harbaugh was kind of hoping things would, I don't want to say fall in his lap, but he would make a few appearances and things would come a little easier. But you know, Sharon's rolling his sleeves up. He's putting the work in. He's making the connections, and not only that, the structure change that we're seeing within the collectives is actually coming from Sharon. It's not coming from a Sean McGee, right? Not that Sean McGee isn't going to have input or anything like that, but someone like Sean McGee is because of a Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore is identifying these people like, look, this is who we need so we can get the ball rolling. And from a donor perspective, from what I'm hearing, is there's a lot more positivity than there was in the past year or two. Now, that doesn't mean, right, so we got to tap into that donor base, right? And from my understanding is, and we just saw it recently, right? We just saw the anonymous donor donate a few $1 million just recently.
yeah.
And I'm hearing that won't be the last. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get multiple $1 million donors, but what I am saying is the bigger donors are more encouraged now to help give resources to the collective. So it seems to be a far better situation. I've also heard that we should see in March, like we kind of touched on, some results. You know, some actual. You know, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's one thing to actually see the results, you know, transpire in terms of commitments. But I'm not saying we're going to land top 100 guys, because I don't know. I'm only hearing what I'm hearing, but I am saying we should see momentum really pick up next month.
Well, and we talked about this with Mark Rogers on the Voice of College Football when it was announced that the NCAA ruling that obviously the NCAA can't essentially enforce NIL issues because it violates antitrust laws to do that. So I think you're gonna probably start seeing not just Michigan, but a lot of schools just start opening the money cannons. I think of Notre Dame as another that I feel like is similar to Michigan in that they've kind of been reserved on their NIL approach and their general recruiting approach.
Well,
that may start to open the money cannons up.
The thing about Notre Dame, though, that I don't know if a lot of people know this, they actually do a team-based salary, and they actually do give money to their players. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. And one of the people who, I don't want to say exposed, but one of the people who discussed that publicly is Zach Zenner's little brother is on Notre Dame. So I believe it was Zach Zinner. If it wasn't Zach Zinner, it was Trevor Keegan. I'm trying to remember. It was one of the two big guards, right? One of their little brothers is on Notre Dame, and he talked about the difference between Michigan and Notre Dame and what they do differently. And the players on Notre Dame are receiving some financial benefit, unlike not that Michigan's not getting financial benefit, but they're not getting a team-based salary. Not every player is receiving, so there is a difference. But I haven't gotten word yet on how Michigan is going to respond to that ruling with the Tennessee and Virginia injunction that was just put in place. I'm curious to see if we do evolve our approach a little bit more than we're already evolving, which it's already encouraging the path we're walking down.
Preston Zinner who now, he's a linebacker for him. So
yeah, the little bit.
So he must have been the one.
Yep, that's him.
Yeah, so, I mean, and by the way, that's Cade McNamara said the same thing publicly on the Jordan Palmer podcast, and people always cringe when I bring that up. But if you take the maize and blue hat off and you just listen to the perspective, like Iowa, Nebraska, they're starting to offer like minimum amounts, right? For players. So it's something that Michigan's really was behind the curve on in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, and then let's look at the reality. The Big Ten's expanding, and we're about to add USC and Oregon. I mean, those are power players, okay? And then USC's not shy either, okay? They're just not good. But the reality is the Big Ten is changing. The climate's changing, and you're going to have a lot more schools getting a lot more confident. I'll give you a school right now you want to worry about, and that's Nebraska. Yeah. Nebraska wakes up. Like, how PJ Fleck was like, oh, Minnesota's a sleeping giant. No. Yeah. Nebraska's a sleeping giant. If their donors get motivated and encouraged, which they are because they're sick of losing, that's something Michigan needs to be aware of.
I mean, we talked about it on the Ocho last night that Nebraska, we did a full coaches ranking 1 to 18, and we put Matt Rule pretty high up there. Not just because of his results so far, but because of his ability to recruit a quarterback away from, two-time national champion Georgia into Nebraska. I mean, I understand there were family connections, like there were other factors involved in that one, but still, we also know about when there's family factors and it doesn't work out because the other school, still is able to snag them.
Yeah, I'm sure the financial persuasion was a little too much, an offer he couldn't refuse, right? So there's no doubt Nebraska ponied up some money to get him from Georgia. That wasn't happening otherwise because Nebraska's been trying all year. They swung that last minute. So, but good on them. I'm not mad.
Also, I don't think, if the news continues to be like this and things continue to develop with Michigan, I'm not going to completely, and this is completely wild ass guessing here, but I could see, like, if Bryce Underwood, after his year, he does a year at LSU, he takes the millions, right, from LSU, but what if he sits? What if he's on the bench, or what if he's, kind of like a Dante Moore situation, right, where he was just unhappy with how he was doing and he decided to transfer. If Michigan's more open to utilizing NIL and the transfer portal and things like that, then I don't think he's completely out of reach.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that on a year earlier. I'm kind of hoping this year Michigan gives them an offer that is, I would say, aggressive. I don't want to say competitive because what I'm hearing about the LSU offer, it's actually not as it's not as high as people think it is. It's just a lot of the extras that come with it, like housing for, housing and opportunity for his parents and stuff like that. But if Michigan can get it together this year and potentially offer something before signing day, we'll see. That's what I'm hoping for.
I do want to cover this comment from, friend of the program, Moose, who, he follows recruiting like few others. And I get some of my insight from recruiting because he's just always diving into it at a really high level. And, he mentions here, do we even want a guy like Underwood? And he seems to be all about the money and not about the team. And my comeback is, because in his defense, right, imagine that you have two schools. And I even ask all the, I'll use this analogy, even with, Michigan fans. Like, imagine that you're 18 years old or 17 years old. I don't know his socioeconomic situation. I'm not going to make a judgment on that. But even if it's great, right? And you have two choices. You have, X number of millions plus incentives at one school that's a very well-known brand, LSU. And then you have the other school, also well-known brand, but it's more like if you're great, you do well on the field, then eventually you're going to get NIL. It's a very different pitch, right? And I just ask, if you're 18, you're 17, you have that decision. I would take the money. I don't know about you. I would take the money.
Yeah. Plus, it's the market now. Every top 300 player and some in the top 500, they're all receiving some financial. I mean, I'd say majority, and when I mean majority, I mean a high majority are receiving some financial benefit. And we got to get to the realization this is paid for work, boys. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't paid for play. Like, this is a job. And I know they're getting scholarships. Okay, so I'm not trying to knock that or anything, but these football players, it's like any any profession, right? You got to be competitive. And to be competitive, you have to offer the best financial packages to get the best talent. So I've worked in consulting, and I'm going to tell you, it's highly competitive. And the way you retain talent is by offering the best benefits and, things of that nature. And the same thing goes for these programs. I mean, we're in an arms race. All these Big Ten schools from facilities. I mean, look at Schembecker Hall, right? They're about to get all new locker rooms and things of that nature. Like, from the facilities, from the talent retention, like it's a money game now, and you have to be able to compete.
Yeah.
So players, to circle back, players like Underwood, it's not that his character is wrong. Okay. It's not that he has flawed character or anything of that nature. It's simply that he's just, it's what the market is demanding, from a player of his, caliber. I mean, we're talking about a 5-star. This is also kind of a generational quarterback. He would have been the number 1 quarterback last cycle too. That's how good he is.
Yeah. He's excellent.
Yeah.
Do I like Smith? Yes. Would I rather have Underwood? Yes. I mean,
not close.
It's just being honest.
Yeah.
This is but I do think he could light Smith, Carter Smith. He could light it up.
Underwood is on the level of a Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Just for comparison.
Absolutely.
No,
so. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I'm gonna skip through some of these comments. I don't want to get demonetized here. But yeah. I mean, I hope it gets to a point, because there's no putting the genie back in this bottle. There's no going back to full amateur. It's just not going to happen. So it's either going to continue status quo, or it's eventually going to become a semi-pro, situation where, and I think this is the way we should do it, where the salaries, the offers, everything is out in the open, out in public. And I think you're right, TJ, what you said earlier, some of the offers may not be as high as we're hearing out in the media, because maybe some agents are hyping things up a little bit.
Of course. Plus the benefits. It's the secondary benefits, like the job opportunities for parents or housing and things of that nature that you don't hear about.
Yeah. And that's been going on for a while, hasn't it? Like in some schools, like job offers and housing,
or getting a girlfriend, or getting a girlfriend into a school or a program. Like that just happened in Alabama. One of the kids wanted his girlfriend to get into like the law school or something. Like, and Nick Saban's like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" Crazy.
He's like, "I'm out. I'm going to go on college game day."
Yeah.
Can't really blame him. No, that was a fascinating interview, by the way. I rarely give ESPN props, but that was a good interview. I thought the one with Reese Davis and Saban. Mm-hmm. Just to get his minds, because you so rarely get into his mindset, because he's, when he's in his media persona and he's, on the, doing his press conferences, you don't really get a sense for the guy. And I feel like, stuff like that, you actually get a sense for like, what makes him tick more and things like that.
Yeah, I'm excited for the addition on game day. I think, hopefully Lee Corso retires respectively. And, I'm excited for Saban to take the mantle there.
Yeah. I say let Corso do the headgear as long as he wants. But that's probably it. Maybe let him film it from Florida. He has the house in Florida,
Yeah.
which he did during COVID times. He was there a lot. Just let him film it from there. I mean, what's the harm in that? I don't
I mean,
think
I'm just
there's.
getting Lou Holtz vibes though. They're hanging on a little too
Yeah.
long. They're hanging on a little too long. I felt like 3 years ago it was time. So we'll see.
Yeah. So before we move on to the combine, because we got some exciting discussion on that, but when you're doing your shopping on Amazon, as many of us do from time to time, some of us don't. That's fine. But if you do, there's a link in literally every video that Voice of College Football puts out, where if you click that, it actually supports our network and helps us bring on great content, great guests, and everything else in the future. We're running like 20 different channels here. And Michigan's one of the best, in terms of subscribers. We want to keep that going. Hit the Amazon link, subscribe to Michigan football, the voice of college football. We want to beat Ohio State, people. Ohio State's like 1,300 ahead of us. How you can't let Ohio State beat Michigan. Okay, they haven't beat Michigan on the football field in 5 years, so you can't let them beat Michigan in the subscriber count. So subscribe to Michigan football and tell everyone else to do it too. All right, so here we go. So obviously, while Ohio State is winning all these offseason national championships with their hire of the Alabama center that can't snap the ball, the guy who's going to get benched at Kansas State, they're making really great decisions and they're winning the offseason. But on the other hand, you have Michigan, who just won the actual national championship, now has 18 players in the combine. And we're now hearing that JJ McCarthy is planning to throw at the combine where some of the other top quarterbacks are sitting out. Could this really be setting JJ up for success?
Yeah. So I think he's going to crush the combine, and not only just on field, but in the interviews.
Yeah.
Right when he gets in, when he sits down with these coaches and these general managers, they're going to be like, "Oh my god." Like the kid's head has always been good ever since high school, right? I mean, the kid's just been on it. So, he's climbing the draft boards as we speak. They can't find a flaw in his game. The flaw simply is the system he was in, right?
Right.
But teams don't care about that as long as the player has the skill, and he has the skill. He can make all the throws. He can throw on the run. He's mobile, all of it. So, I know we're talking about it. Could he potentially go top 5? I think it is possible. I do think some teams have him as the number 2 quarterback on their board. Personally, I have him as the 4th quarterback. Personally,
Okay.
but because I have Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May ahead of him. I think him and Penix are kind of maybe even, but I think the issue with Penix is his injury history and also his age, right? So those are negative knocks that I would have on Penix. But
yeah.
So I do think there are teams out there who look at JJ McCarthy because he's young. Isn't JJ only 20 right now? I think he's
20. I think, yeah.
He's only one of the younger quarterbacks. So, I mean, I think they see the potential. We could see him go top 5.
He did. He turned 21 a month ago. But okay. Yes, your point still stands.
Right. So I really think you will see Williams go number 1. I think Chicago is probably locked into that.
Yep.
Justin Fields, Ohio State quarterback, will be traded, and and then JJ could potentially go. I don't know what team. I know we talked earlier. You thought maybe Atlanta would be a good fit, but I've heard that they're locked into Jaden Daniels if he's there. If he's not there, then maybe JJ is the fit. And I'll tell you right now, that's a great match for JJ McCarthy, man. You got Bijan, you got Pitts, you got that offensive line. I mean, yeah, that'd be, if he went to Atlanta, that might be best case scenario, honestly. Unless he went later, later rounds like a Pittsburgh or something. But in terms of early in the draft, Atlanta might be the best match.
Yeah, I mean, and people say the system and the system, and I don't think you're wrong, because there is an element of that. There's no question that he doesn't he doesn't have the opportunities to sling it like a Caleb Williams did with Lincoln Riley. Everybody knows that. But I mean, people, now you've watched every snap of Michigan football, as I have, and as many who are watching this right now in February have probably done the same because they're diehards, right? And, you know, we watched against Western Michigan, you know, his first game doing anything really, you know, with that across the body, across the field, you know, pass that went like 60 something, 70 something yards. And we knew then, I think, that he was going to be the future starter. The entire crowd lit up. And then we saw from there, I mean, even in the Alabama game, I'd say 95% of our previous quarterbacks lose that game, right? Like JJ had to use his athleticism in that fourth quarter. And even with that like athletic ability to one-handed catch the ball, then throw it to Roman Wilson. Some of the throws and like athletic ability, I know he can play hero ball sometimes. He really does need to learn how to throw the ball away. That's still a knock on him. But I would say overall, he's the best quarterback we've probably ever had, and at the very least, he's up there with, you know, people mention Tom Harmon from the '40s. People mention you know, Tom Brady, and I think they have kind of, you know, they remember his time at the Patriots. And I think they use it, they're kind of, you know, forgetting that for a lot of time he was caught in a QB battle. I think JJ is the best quarterback we've ever had. And, you know, so even though the system hasn't really benefited him fully, you've still seen quite a bit, and he's got plenty of film he can show these guys.
Yeah, I think a quantitative attribute of JJ is he's a freaking winner, man. Like the dude's a straight winner, and that's the Tom Brady effect. Like I'm not saying he's Tom Brady, but I am saying the kid wins. And not everyone does do that. You know, not every quarterback has that, you know, that attribute, which is you can't measure. So, and I think teams will recognize that. You know, you don't go. I mean, what was his record? One loss, and like, I don't even know what his record was.
One loss.
Yeah, but I mean, he's like one of the winningest quarterbacks of all time in college football.
Yeah,
you know, like I think he's gonna be fun to watch when he reaches, you know, gets the NFL, see what team he gets on. Hopefully, Chicago doesn't do anything smart. You know, hopefully they don't trade back and then get JJ or something. Although they have like the 8th pick or 9th pick or something, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, I think JJ is a safe bet. High floor quarterback with a high ceiling. You know.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned Jaden Daniels. I mean, I'm seeing him projected maybe 3rd at the Patriots. And if he goes 3rd at the Patriots, then JJ is absolutely in play for the Falcons.
Yeah, personally, I like Jaden Daniels. That's the core. I like him more than Williams. I think Williams has a poor attitude. You know, I think he's got a me attitude. You know, he's not even hiring an agent. You know, I don't know. Red flag. Red flag.
Yeah, and he may not go to certain schools. You know, just depending on his mood. You know, pull an Eli Manning.
Yeah. He told Chicago he didn't want to go to Chicago. He already told them that. But he might be going to Chicago, so that'll be fun.
He's probably going to Chicago.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to watch.
I mean, actually, like, I mean, if I were Chicago, I would probably keep Justin Fields and go get, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. and build around Justin Fields with these weapons that are going to be in the draft, and get them for cheap.
They need to get I agree. Marvin Harrison Jr. and get another offensive lineman. That's what they need to do. But whatever. Let them do what they want. I don't care. Let them
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
I think Justin Fields pretty damn dangerous. You know, he got a lot better last year. Like, I'm not saying he's like amazing, but he did get a lot better. He is a dangerous quarterback.
No, I mean, and if he's throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., who I believe is probably the best wide receiver in the last 5 years, and I'm counting, you know, some really good wide receivers in that. But if you noticed what Ohio State's offense was like with him on the field and what Ohio State's offense was like without him on the field, it was two different teams. That's how you know when somebody's a real impact player.
Yeah, ask Georgia. You know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. One literally, and they still were one play away from winning, you know, basically getting to the Natty game and probably beating TCU. So
yeah, kickers don't matter though. No, they're not people.
You know, yeah. Yeah. You know, and real quick, I do want to encourage everybody. We do have a merch store. Check it out. You know, our buddy Moose always posts the link, and we appreciate that. You know, Mike Ford, I believe, is in the chat, and he likes to show off his Michigan hoodie that he got from the merch store. But check it out. You got hoodies, you got pint glasses, so you can cheers to Michigan's recent national championship. There's even a dog bowl, flag, all kinds of interesting merchandise that you can check out to celebrate Michigan and the channel. So thanks Moose for letting us all know about that. And if you haven't gotten your merch yet, for that special someone who's a college football fan in your life, there's the link. All right. So with that said, it's not just JJ, although of course we love JJ. We're going to miss JJ, but there are 17 other players who are also going to the combine and they're going to be up for the draft. And so I've been looking at kind of some of these sites and kind of where people have everybody. And I kind of expected Chris Jenkins to be very high, and he is. And I expected Junior Colson to be very high, and he is. Blake Corum's, I think, a little lower, slightly lower than he would have been if not for that injury kind of just slowing down. And obviously he was still amazing, but there was a lot of film that showed that he was just a half step, not quite at his absolute peak. But I would say Roman Wilson has climbed significantly. Yeah. If you watched his Senior Bowl, and I'm saying the people in chat, if you guys have watched, because I know you have, TJ, but if you watched the Senior Bowl practices and just what he was able to do against those defenders, he really looks like a elite wide receiver, and that's remarkable. We haven't exactly had the best luck the last couple of years with elite wide receiver play, right? Roman Wilson has broken the ceiling, and he's really impressed people apparently, and impressed NFL scouts.
Yeah, he's an excellent route runner. I mean, outside of his speed, he's going to crush the combine. I mean, I fully expect him to be drafted second round. I'm seeing a lot of big boards say like top 60, or he's ranked in the 50s. I think Pro Football Focus has him in the 50s, and a couple other big boards I've seen in the 50s. So we should see a second round wide receiver. I do think if Nico Collins didn't skip the COVID year, we would have seen another highly drafted wide receiver. And we're seeing it in the NFL now, right? He's killing it. But
yep.
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson's about to be the talk of the combine in terms of wide receivers. Although I will say this is kind of a strong year for wide receivers. Like Keon Coleman, for example, and we talk about Marvin Harrison, and then you got the guys from Washington. So it is a strong year, but
Malik Neighbors.
A guy like Roman Wilson, if he gets in the right offense, he's gonna be a freak show. Like if he was in Detroit, I don't know if Detroit would draft him in the second round. I don't know. We'll see. You never know. But if he was in a Detroit offense, oh my God, he would flourish because Ben Johnson's creativity. But if he goes like maybe a Denver, or maybe maybe San Francisco, they seem to like their Michigan wide receivers. But if he goes somewhere with a creative offense, that kid's gonna flourish, man.
I believe it. Yeah, it is a pretty heavy wide receiver. Rome Odunze, we can't forget about him. And, we saw what he could do, even though the Michigan defense kind of shut him down somewhat. They couldn't contain him fully. Texas had real problems with him. So he's going to probably do pretty well. And so, yeah, big wide receiver room here. However, I think, Roman Wilson's going to do well. I think you're going to see probably, I think what's really impressive is Sandra still might go above the linemen as, and we have some damn good linemen in the combine, but Sandra still the way that he was able to transition from wide receiver to nickel back and
Right.
his impact play the last couple of years has just maybe one of the best coaching moves that Michigan made in Harbaugh's entire tenure.
Yeah, it's definitely there with Haskins, right? I mean, BC moved him from linebacker to running back, but
right.
Yeah, Sammer's still probably a third round guy, but hey, if a team loves him, they might like him in the second. I mean, the only knock on him is his size. It's not his ability. It's not his skill. It's not his, it's not the dog in him because he's got it, right? I mean, if the Lions didn't have Brian Branch, I'd be all about it. But I think Sanders still is going to be, there's going to be some teams that fall in love with him. I mean, I've seen some scouts on Twitter saying that they think he might be the best corner in the draft. Now, I know that's saying a lot because this is a deep draft, right? So this is a corner. This is a very strong corner draft.
Yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry is part of it. Yeah, you got
you
Cooper
got
DeJean
from Missouri. You got Wiggins from Clemson. You got the two Alabama corners. So the other Alabama corner is ranked higher than McKinstry. Arnold, I believe his name is, and and so I'm looking at corners because the Lions need one. But so Sanders still though, I think some teams are gonna fall in love with him. I mean, he's gonna be a player. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, Teron Arnold. Sanders still's gonna be a player. It's just his size is his only knock. If he does fall at all in terms, if he falls, I mean like fourth, fifth round. If that happens, it'll simply be his size. But I think he'll be a third round guy. But on Roman Wilson in high school, he ran a 10.7 200 meters. So I am so excited to see what he does in the 40 at the combine because I think he's gonna crush it. I think he'll be one of the top, I think maybe top 3 times of wide receivers.
I'm excited to see everybody at the combine who's planning on playing. I think it'll be great to see them in a different setting for the first time in a bit. Obviously, Roman Wilson we did see in the Senior Bowl practices. JJ being able to really showcase his ability. I can't wait for that. Like I genuinely can't. When you're not in a game situation, you have to be strategic about how you utilize all the pieces so you can win the game. And,
right.
Clearly Sharon talked about that a lot when he was interim head coach. But yeah, I can't wait to just see these players let loose. One really good point that Dependent Fanatic made that I agree with is the fact that Michigan is going to have a lot of draftees, but they're not going to necessarily go first round. And because of that, that means that, you don't get put on the trash franchises. You might actually have some decent stability, some stable organizations. I think that's spot on, Dependent Fanatic.
Yeah, and another player who's going to crush the combine is Chris Jenkins. I'm interested to see what he does with the bench press and things of that nature.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so he is the mutant. So and I think I'm really high on Junior Colson. I think he's gonna. I've seen Junior Colson ranked as high as the number 1 linebacker in the draft. I've seen that. So right now, I think he's around 4th. I saw on NFL Network they had him 5th. We have a lot of guys in the top 5 though of their respective position groups. So I've even seen AJ Barner ranked 5th, which is pretty interesting. Because I think
Barner.
I think he's a bit of a sleeper. I mean, Colston Loveland obviously got the shine, but Barner's a pretty solid tight end.
Yeah, I think he could go somewhat high. I think I'm putting him kind of in the middle. I think he will go. He's not going to go.
Right.
Yeah,
5th round.
I don't think.
5th, 6th round.
Yeah, I don't think he's going 7th. But I do. 4th, 5th, somewhere in there. He made some really good plays, and Colston Loveland gets a lot of the spotlight, but he was just as important in quite a few games.
Yeah, the one to watch. I mean, obviously we're gonna watch all of them, but Zach Zenner really, I'm curious about because of his injury.
Yeah,
I've seen him all over the place. I've seen him as high as 2nd round, but I've seen him as low as 4th. So that injury, it just depends on how teams take it. I'm hoping the Lions grab him in the 3rd. He's probably my number 1 Michigan Wolverine I want the Lions to get. I think, and I think he's a steal, by the way. I mean, I think Zach Zenner, I mean, we all know, we saw what he was. I mean, he's a damn juggernaut. So, and then Keegan too. Keegan's a damn good guard. And I don't know why I don't know why he's ranked. he's like a day 3, or a day 2, day 3 guy, and which, I mean, I understand day 2, but I'm seeing like 3rd to 5th round for him. But I mean, I think,
Yeah.
in my opinion, he should be no lower than 3rd round. I think Keegan's a damn good guard, and I've looked at some of the other guards, and there are some good guards
Yeah.
like Powers, who's a center for Oregon, and Zach Frazier from West Virginia. Like, these are very good players, but I don't see much of a drop off, from Keegan and Zenter, especially Zenter. I just don't see it. I just see an injury. That's the only. But the thing about Zenter's injury is it's just a broken bone that heals. You don't lose
Right.
ability. It's not like an ACL or anything too structural. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he was already walking on his own power, and he was looking, in the national championship game, he seemed, like he was on the mend. And I guess we'll find out. I mean, I thought Barner, in the Senior Bowl, he was more used as a blocker. He didn't really have a ton. I mean, maybe I missed it because I didn't watch the whole thing, admittedly, but I did see quite a bit. He was used as a blocker a lot, in that game. But he's had some. He's definitely broken out. Unfortunately, it does seem like Cornelius Johnson, is going to probably be, that 7th kind of bubble guy. And given what he did in 2022, that's a bit of a shame. But even him, look, if somebody needs a wide receiver and they're in that situation where they need somebody and they can't, they need a value player. I think Cornelius Johnson's a real value player, just like Ronnie Bell was for the 49ers. And I know he got injured, but he did make a couple of really good plays his first year. Not as many as Money Moody, who killing it, doing his thing in the Super Bowl. But certain, couple 50-some yarders, right? But still, I think Cornelius Johnson could be a real value player for somebody.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think he will get drafted. I don't think he'll go to undrafted. I think in the right system, Cornelius Johnson would have been showcased more because excellent hands. Like, did you see his contested? He led D1 football in contested catches at like a 70. It was like one of those next gen stats. It was insane. He cleared it by, like, he was number 1 by so much, by like, I don't even know. The next closest person to him wasn't even in like within 30% of contested catches. It was insane. But
82%, 82% contested catches.
Yeah, it's insane. And the next closest is like, do you see what second is? Because it's insane. They're not even close. But I think Cornelius Johnson will get drafted. I think I think the only players who we might have to be a little worried about not getting drafted is potentially like a Trente Jones. Maybe maybe a Carson Barnhart, but I do think he should get drafted. Josh Wallace should get drafted, but we're talking about guys later in the draft, right? Jalen Harrell. These are Ladarius Henderson. I don't know why Ladarius Henderson's not getting more. He's kind of lower on the boards from what I'm seeing, but that doesn't necessarily mean NFL teams think the same way. It's just what the so-called draft analysts think. But the other thing, there's only so many spots. Also, I mean, there's a lot of talent, and there's only so many spots, and so people who we think should go higher than they're actually going to go, and then there's people who are going to go higher that we don't think are going to go as high. I mean, that's just how it rolls. So I can't wait to see the combine, and then obviously see how it goes in April. Yeah, and plus we're going for the record here. I mean, doesn't Georgia has the record with 15 drafted, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we're going if we break that, geez, dude, breaking the combine invite record, breaking the drafted record, winning the national title. What a year.
Hey, that's what we like to see. So quick couple housekeeping / programming reminders. Don't forget that on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern now, we've got the Big Ten live show with Mark Rogers. So this is the show where it's a call-in show, and you can actually pick up the phone, literally, and go to 888-99-RILEY. That's how I remember it, because that's the phone number, and you can call Mark and Tim and give your take on any Big Ten topic that you want. Then I host the Monday night Big Ten show, which we call the Ocho, at 8 p.m. Eastern. We just had Maryland week with Trey Moore from Locked On Terps. I thought it was a really good discussion. And every week we find somebody who reps their school and some media guest, and have a nice chat for a half hour. And then we bring on our community panel and talk all about the Big Ten and what's the latest news there. So check that out. Coming up next is Oregon Ducks Live. And so after this show, I always encourage everybody to help support our next show. So Oregon Ducks at the Voice of College Football, they have a channel, and Exploring with Ben. And I always say Exploring with Ben and a cast of characters. And this week it looks like they are talking about, what are they talking about? Looks like they have Max Torres from Ducks Digest. So if you want to support the other team that has beat Ohio State in the last 3 years, the only other team in the Big Ten, then 10:30 p.m. Eastern, feel free to swing over there. At least give them a like and help them out there. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that right in the chat so everybody can do that. But of course, hit this like button too.
Yeah, so those Oregon fans are a cocky bunch, huh? Have you chatted with a few of them yet?
I have chatted with a few of them. I think they finally, a couple of them were calling us frauds.
Yeah,
and then they stopped doing that. Yeah, once we stomped Washington, they stopped saying.
Yeah.
The tune changed pretty quickly when the team that beat them twice got rolled by Michigan's 2023 team, and especially that defense.
Yeah, they think they're walking in here next year and winning the Big Ten, though. That seems to be the consensus of the fan base over there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that out of all the teams that are coming in, they're probably the best position because of how Lanning has shored up that defense. I would say Washington, if they still had DeBoer and they still had, Penix and the wide receivers, I'd probably give the nod to them. But because they're all gone, even though I do like Jed Fish, I think Oregon's in the best position right away to, at the very least, be in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're definitely a worthy adversary. It's just I think they feel like they come across like they're about to walk away with it. Like Michigan's about to be down, and Ohio State is, because they've already beaten Ohio State, so they're just thinking they're going to run through it.
Absolutely. And Moose is asking us to if we like his new pick. Gold star. Love it.
Perfect. 5 out of 5. Yeah, 5 out of 5.
Absolutely. Yeah, Moose is here every week, and we do appreciate that, as is Dependent Fanatic and Mike Fort and Tom. These guys go hard in the paint, man. They're here every week. They're always supporting not just us,
that's good.
the other channels in our network, and we appreciate you guys. All right, TJ. So with that said, it's that time. We're going to go ahead and again, thank you for coming back as always. And feel free to throw out a final thought and let everybody know the places that you can be found.
Yeah, so great to be back. Always good to talk Michigan football. I'm on Ronin Sports Talk on Twitter. You can find me there talking all Detroit sports. I do focus on Michigan. We can't have too much of that. So, but final thoughts. I mean, watch this combine. Watch the Michigan players rise the board. I think you're going to see Ohio State take another L. And another reason why our championship was no fluke. And you're going to find out when we break the NFL record for most drafted. But yeah, let's look forward to next month. Let's keep our ears to the ground on recruiting, and let's see what Sharon and the boys can do.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tom.
And look at this. You got 4 different people so far saying thanks, and so people appreciate you coming on, and so do I.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, TJ. Well, go blue, and we'll see you around soon.
All right, see you.
Okay, and real quick, couple of final comments from everybody, and then we'll wrap up here. Again, just want to remind everybody: hit the Amazon link, and then bare minimum, if you do nothing else, hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds. It's free. If you like the content that we put out there, if you like the content that Mark Rogers, voice of college football, puts out there, and if you like the content that all of us put out there, hit that like button, subscribe to Michigan Football at the voice of college football, and help us get above Ohio State. It's a big goal. It's a BHAG. We call it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal to get above Ohio State. But we can do it, and we are building and we are growing. So tell everybody who's plugged into Michigan to hit that subscribe button, and obviously share when we're live with a friend. Had a pretty solid turnout tonight. We appreciate everybody who came by and did anything, whether you just stopped by, you hit the like button, you chatted, you gave a super chat, contributed something. I mean, anybody who comes by and gives us any time, when you have a lot of choices that you could be doing, we appreciate that. And that it means a lot. Yeah. So yeah, Stan is challenging us all. Hit that like button. Okay. Make that happen. We'll do that here. And let's see. Dependent Fanatic, remember to like. Dependent Fanatic, we appreciate you. Buckeyes admit to recruiting violations, vacate their offseason. Did they? We're doing some live Googling here. Yes, they have reported 4 level 3 NCAA recruiting violations. So not exactly program destroying here. Impermissible contact. This is from 11 Warriors, the Buckeye site. Impermissible contact with the transfer. Provided a photo edit to a recruit. Booster contact with recruit before a football game. And a social media violation. Great news, the staff member wrote, reposting the announcement, which violated 13-10-111. Okay. I have to say something here. And you guys know, I'm no fan of Ohio State. That's absurd and ridiculous. You have schools openly throwing bags around. You have schools openly giving Lambos to their recruits, and saying great news and reposting an announcement is a violation, and we got to self-report that. Come on, people. Like, the whole thing needs to be overturned, and we need a commissioner of college football, because that's absurd. I'm sorry, and I'm no fan of Ohio State, but that's absurd. It just is. Yeah, and look, I mean, listen, I mean, I think you do whatever it takes to get recruits within a certain bound. Saying great news or watching Zoom footage of practices, or some of just the silly things that they're the NCAA is focusing on these silly things, like they're it's just absurd when you have schools offering 7 figures to recruits, pay for play, GIFs with money in the GIF, announcing that they're going to Miami. I mean, this is absurd. I just think it's absurd. And, again, like I said, no fan of Ohio State whatsoever. But come on, what are we doing? And look, Harbaugh obviously got dogged for some of these things that I just listed, and obviously the hamburger, the cheeseburger, brown jug situation, just so ridiculous. You can't buy a kid a freaking burger, but you can give him a Lambo. Like, seriously, what are we doing? And yeah, look, Harbaugh was great. Although, we just heard from TJ that Sharon Moore has just leveled up our recruiting. So yes, but also Sharon has taken it up a couple of notches even from this. So, TJ says we'll see some results and let's see what happens. Yeah, Moose. TJ says that might not be as high as it's been reported. So, Jackson, I agree with you. I have no complaints whatsoever. These players put their life on the line. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's not. They put their life, their bodies on the line. They have to do all this shit, and then they still have to go to class. And not everybody does. Colorado, they just do online class, apparently. But they have to do some type of education and some type of involvement in the education process. And then they've got to go do all this football shit. And some of them play baseball too and other sports. Okay. So I'm down for buying a player a burger. I'm down for buying a player a Lamborghini. I'm down for whatever it takes, as long as, I think there needs to be some guardrails, but like Michigan's got so much freaking money, $20 billion endowment, donors that are well pocketed, business owners, one of the richest alumni bases on planet Earth. And with this NCAA ruling, I think you're going to see the money cannons start to go. Yeah, I mean, Jackson, yeah, spot on, man. Spot on. Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about social media these days. We know that. It's all about TikTok. It's all about Instagram. Got to show off your car. Got to show off. And that's part of having status. And, and we just need to stop doing this and just acknowledge the situation that we're in. So definitely rewind, Brandon, or wait for us to make the video clip on if we can get it popping, because the answer is a little bit kind of yes and no. And TJ definitely shared some insider info, and we appreciate that on some of the things that he's learned, and that he believes that recruiting is going to pick up quite a bit in the next month with some very high-end players. And it does seem like we're kind of getting it popping a little bit, but I think there's still restraint. We aren't going to give a lot of money necessarily, or have a minimum salary, right? Where Nebraska has a minimum salary, Iowa has a minimum salary, Notre Dame has a minimum salary. So, I think Michigan just needs to break their hesitation and realize that, we need to act like a program that just won the national title, because we are a program that just won the national title. So there you go. Okay. I think that's it for tonight. I want to encourage everybody again, real quick, to follow TJ Konarski from Ronin Sports Talk. He's been an awesome guest on quite a few episodes at this point. Check out his work. Check out his stuff that he does. Follow him on Twix. My name is John Diadamo, and I was your host the last hour. You can follow me on Twix as well. Sometimes I'll put out takes on college football as well as other things. I work in the events industry as my main job, so sometimes you'll see events content. Sometimes you'll see me flying to different places. I'm going to be going to Atlanta. I'm going to be going to Vegas, lots of places. And you'll see that if you follow me on Twix. There will actually be, so I do want to make a quick programming note. I have to pull everything up here. So while I do that, just want to remind everybody that Oregon Ducks Live is coming up in about an hour and a half with Exploring with Ben and a cast of characters. And you could, Max Torres of Ducks Digest is going to be doing that. So next Tuesday, I have a treat for you all. I'm not going to be here. You know who's going to be here instead? None other than the voice of college football himself, Mark Rogers, is going to be hosting Michigan Wolverines Live next Tuesday because I am going to be away on business. And so you're going to get literally the guy who does it all and runs this entire network, Mark Rogers, voice of college football. He might bring a guest. He might bring Tanner. He might bring somebody else. You never know what's going to happen. But Mark will be hosting next Tuesday because I'm going to be traveling. So I'm going to be watching, though. I'll be listening in and hanging out in chat if I can, if I'm not at an event or networking or whatever. So definitely, come by, support him, and I'm sure he's going to put together a great show for you guys. Are there scheduling changes to the main channel? I don't see Mark posting as much unless I just don't think you're seeing it in the algorithm. Yeah, he posts pretty much daily what the schedule is going to be that day for the entire network. So he puts a community post on his main channel with literally every show that's airing that day on any of the channels, which is very helpful because there's usually a lot going on in all the different channels. So yeah, check out for that post. Yes, DF, Mark Rogers, voice of college football, in the house. Yeah, Steve. I mean, maybe Steve will be on. I mean, we can't promise that. It may be Mark solo. It may be him bringing on a guest. That'll be up to him. He's going to run the show next week, so he'll make that decision. Thank you, Jackson. I will make sure to have a lot of water, and I'll make sure I'm bundled up because it's cold outside. I know that's your thing. I don't think it's going to be that cold where I'm going though. But there you go. Yeah, Mark is awesome. Yep. And he has the insights he brings to the table are just incredible. And I'd love to see JJ another. Well, I think we're gonna see at least some of the combine in the video from that. So I'm gonna be scouring the net for every bit of video I can get on the NFL Combine. I can't wait to see JJ, especially just slinging the ball. So absolutely. Okay, everybody. I think I've overstayed my welcome at this point. So go ahead and hit up Oregon Ducks Live in about an hour and a half over on Oregon Football at the Voice of College Football. Again, it's John D'Adamo saying, go blue, and see you next time.